I don't quite know how, but my little brain managed to read 20 books in the month of May, and I was doing bi-monthly. I'm thinking I'm going to start doing monthly reading wrap-ups instead of bi-monthly. Let me know what your preferences are. Just seems a bit more economic. That's the wrong word to use here. You know what I mean. Let's start with a quick overview of the stats. I had 3 5-star reads, which I think is amazing. 8 4-star reads, so I'm obviously reading things that I enjoy. 7 3-star reads, which to me just means the book was fine. I had 1 2-star read, 1 1-star read, and a couple of DNFs, but they're not necessarily hard DNFs. I didn't absolutely hate anything. So the genres that I read: 3 books that were either science fiction or fantasy, 3 horrors, 4 thriller or cozy mysteries, a new love of mine, cozy mystery. I already knew I liked thrillers. 5 romance, which is the most amount of romance that I have read this entire year. It's 2 authors in particular, both part of a series, which I did talk about in my romance TBR video if you want to check that out if you're into romance. 2 non-fiction, which I'm very proud of myself for, and I read 3 literary fiction. Obviously some of these are going to be crossover, so a couple of them are fantasy romance, some of the horror will be classed as literary horror, but this is the way that I have divided those statistics, so that's what we've got. Also, hi, hello, if you're new here, I'm Natalie. I post twice a week consisting of reading wrap-ups, TBR videos, reading recommendations, all that kind of thing. So if that sounds like something you're into, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I'd love to have you over here. So without further ado, let's just get into the books. I think the best way, and the way that makes sense to me, is to go from least favourite to favourite. So that's what I'm going to do. Luckily, my 2 DNFs for this month, which in case you didn't know, it means did not finish, are both from the library. The first book I DNF'd is Death of the Author by Cora. I thought I was going to really love this. I picked it up and I read the first couple of chapters, and I just never went back to it. Nothing was compelling me to pick it up. This is just going to be a soft DNF, as I do want to actually give this book a proper chance. But as this is a library book, this is actually going back tomorrow, but that was the first DNF of the month. The second one, which I did give a good chance, is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. It started off quite interesting. There was a girl who works in her uncle's, I want to say. It's almost like a museum of curiosities. She finds a hole in the wall, goes through it with some bloke that lives next door or works in the cafe next door. I think it's like a portal into another world. I just wasn't in love with it, and there are so many other books that I was excited to read this month, but this is due back at the same time as Cora's one. My 1-star read, which was actually a 1.5 star, was Shark Heart by Emily Herbeck. It just was not my cup of tea, and this is a debut. So much respect to the author. However, I was bored shitless. I just found that the structure of the book didn't really work for me either. I got over halfway through, which is why I rated it, and it got to a point where it felt like it was the end of the book, but I still had 47% left to read, and I thought, do you know what? I know he turns into a shark. That's already happened. Why do I need to keep on reading? It goes back to the wife's childhood. Maybe there was going to be some profound message that I was going to get from this, but it didn't hit for me. Sadly. My 2-star read I was actually so surprised about, and that's This Is How You Lose the Time War, which is a sapphic sci-fi, and it has all of the elements in it that I thought I was going to love. I listened to the audiobook, so perhaps this is user error, but I did not have a clue what was going on for the entirety of the story. I understand that there's 2 people. I don't even know if they're people. I think they might be aliens. I really could not tell you. They start writing each other letters from across the different dimensions or worlds. Sometimes I don't mind being confused while I'm reading a story. For example, the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, I found that really hard to grasp to start with, but as I got later on in the story, it all started making sense to me and I really enjoyed it. However, this reminded me of how I felt when I read Gideon the Ninth. I don't think I'm that much of a sci-fi fan that I can just enjoy the vibes of the story. I need to know, I need to understand what's going on, have a full grasp of the characters' intentions, which I'm sure are crystal clear to some people, but for me, it was just over my head, and it just wasn't an enjoyable experience for me personally. I read Clear by Caris Davis, historical literary fiction. There's a man who's living alone on an island, and a priest is sent to basically evict him off of the land because the church is taken over. It's about how their kind of relationship, friendship blossoms, even though there is a language barrier. Do you know what? I was reading through the reviews after I finished it, and I loved the ending. That's what actually made the book for me, because I gave this a 3.5. The writing was stunning and the atmosphere is definitely what makes the book. It's not like a really plot forward book as with most literary fiction. But yeah, a lot of people were saying that they hated the ending. They thought it was really unrealistic. I loved the ending. I thought it was brilliant. I think I probably would read something from this author again, because that was my first experience with their writing. Also in the 3-star category is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I gave this 3.25 stars. Yes, it was cute, it was cozy, but I think I prefer my cozy fantasy more situated in the real world. This is very high fantasy, as it says on the front, high fantasy, low stakes, good company, and that is exactly what it is. I just found my mind drifting a little bit. I didn't absolutely love it. It's not up there with the very Secret Society of Irregular Witches for me personally. The other 2 books that were in the 3-star category are both romance. Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which I have spoken about before, I gave this 3.5 stars. It's very cutesy, it's very cozy, it's wholesome, it's a good time. It's about a girl that moves to a small town after kind of inheriting her aunt's cafe. She's getting to know all the townsfolk, falls in love with the grumpy town bachelor. I also started the Wild series by Elsie Silver, and you know what, I had such a great time with this. I loved it. I gave it 3.75 stars. I thought this was a really good introduction to this part of the Elsie Silver world, and this whole series is kind of interconnected standalone, so you get little cameos from future characters in this book as well. She's a small town girl that left Rose Hill, went off to the city, came back. He is a billionaire and owns his own record label. I just found their relationship so cute. I loved Rosie as well. She's really snarky and their banter was really fun. I also read my first Adrienne Young book. I have been recommended her books lots of times by mutuals who enjoy the same kind of books as me. They tend to be like thriller mystery with kind of a paranormal vibe. I read A Sea of Unspoken Things, and to be honest, I didn't really love it. It was just okay for me. I just gave it the bog standard 3 stars. I had a good time while I read it. It was a fairly quick read. I will say that the writing was lovely. I mean, I listened to it via audio, and the cadence of the narrator and the way it was written worked really well. So it was an enjoyable time. It was a quick read. It's nothing that I'll be writing home about. Hasn't put me off her. I will definitely try her other books that have been recommended to me. I finally picked up Grey After Dark by Noelle W. Ely. I've never read one of her books before. I don't know why. I remember when I first joined Book Talk a couple of years ago, Run on Red, I think it was really popular, and then Ask for Andrea, both of which I still haven't read, but I will definitely do after this one. This one is actually said to be based on true events. It's about a girl who is basically taken by these men, and everything that you think will unfold unfolds. It's a story of survival. There's a little bit of romance in there. There's definitely some gruesome scenes. And do you know what? I just had a really good time with this book. I think I gave it 3.5 stars, but I think it's more of a 3.75 stars. I read this from start to finish in one day. It was so addictive, I could not put it down. And I can see why the phrase "women always choose the bear" is associated with this book. Another 3-star read for me was a dark romance, Lights Out. This was actually such a fun time. I gave this 3.5 stars. It's a stalker romance, essentially. A guy who goes onto the internet and posts thirst traps. This woman, who's a nurse, starts commenting on his profile, and some of the things that she comments, oh my god. But anyway, it's quite cringy, but it is supposed to be. It's definitely not a book that you're supposed to take seriously. It's so many points in this book made me laugh out loud. It's very spicy. There is so much smart. As long as you go into it knowing that, then you're in for a good time. So anyway, so they find out that there's a connection between them and end up meeting in real life. He basically has a dark past and he's trying to figure out whether he's a good or a bad person, and he's an absolute simp for her. So I would highly recommend the audio. The narrators do such an amazing job. The final book in the 3-star category is The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which is the second book in the Dream Harbour series by Laurie Gilmore. So the one that comes after the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. They're spicy, they're cozy, they're just adorable. This one follows Hazel, who runs the bookstore. She kind of feels like she's a bit boring, so she asks Noah to help her spice up her summer. And that is what he does. Moving on to the 4-star read. So these are books that I really loved. but they just didn't quite give me the 5-star feeling. One day, everyone will have always been against this. Such an interesting read. It's got the blend of non-fiction and memoir, which I really enjoy. I found that it was organised really well. It's basically kind of a breakup letter talking about all the things that are inherently wrong with the West, how systemic racism and essentially Western ideology is poisoning society. It is such a fantastic read. I would highly recommend. I listened to the audiobook of this and I thought it was narrated really well. It has actually been dubbed as the modern day The Fire Next Time, which is a James Baldwin classic. That is very high regard indeed. The other non-fiction I read was Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates. It was my first Laura Bates. I really enjoyed it. There were some parts that I felt lagged a little bit for me. There is a lot of information and she's obviously very, very passionate about the subject matter, understandably. So this is essentially a work of journalism where she kind of goes undercover as an incel. So in case you don't know what that is somebody that classes themselves as involuntarily celibate, that women don't choose to sleep with them, and there's the whole 80-20, which is 80% of women only choose to have sex with 20% of the men, and the whole blue pill, red pill thing. I can't remember which way round it is, but I think it's if you take the red pill, you see the world for how it really is in the mind of this, essentially what is a terrorist group, but is not recognised as terrorism because it's violence against women. It was such a fascinating read. I would highly recommend Comfort Me with Apples. This was such a wild ride, following a woman, and she's made for this man, her husband. Everything she does is for him. Do you know what? The less you know about this book, the better. My advice is don't read any reviews because there's so many spoilers that just give away the whole premise, which is a twist in itself. It's such a short read, but it's really impactful. And yeah, highly recommend. That was a 4.25 star read for me. I loved it. Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin is a horror novella that is genuinely so creepy. You are not going to find out what happens. I feel like I need to say that from the start. It is definitely speculative and ambiguous. So as long as you go into it knowing this, you'll be fine. A little boy is sitting with a woman and they are talking about the circumstances that led up to her being in hospital, and she's trying to figure out where her daughter is. Just buckle in, hold on tight and enjoy the ride. That's all I've got to say for that one. I gave it a solid 4 stars. Also finally got round to reading some of my arcs. This came out in May this year. Julie Chan is Dead by Lian Zhang, and I had such a fantastic time with this book. I really didn't know what to expect, to be honest, when first going in. I would say that this is kind of cozy mystery, kind of horror. If Yellowface and Bunny had a baby, this is the book baby that they would produce. This follows Julie Chan, who is really just a bit down on her luck. She's having a really tough life, and she finds her estranged twin sister dead, who's like some massive social media star, and she basically assumes her life. It was slightly ridiculous, but you know what? I didn't mind. So yes, I would highly recommend this book. I gave it 4.25 stars. 4.5 stars to Bat Eater. I loved this book. It was so interesting. It's a pandemic book, but don't let that put you off. The beginning of this book, oh my God, I was just not expecting this. This is quite a gory read, by the way, but it wasn't too much for me. A girl starts working as a crime scene cleaner, cleaning up after people have been... They start to discover bats at the scene. Not only is it entertaining, but it's got fantastic social commentary of racism, discrimination, Chinese tradition and culture. You know what? I gave this 4.5. I think it needs to be more of a 4.75 or even a 5 star. I had such a fantastic time with this. I think I read it in either 1 or 2 sit-ins, and the hype is real. I know everybody's loving this book at the moment. It was absolutely fantastic, and I can't believe that it was a debut. What a book. 4 stars to Wild Eye by Elsie Silver, which is the second book in the Rose Hill series, the first one being Wild love. I love this one. So this was Weston, who is Rosie from the first book, older brother. He meets a famous country music star. Banter was really good. She was kind of finding herself. He's a single dad. Just really enjoying the series. Finally, moving on to my 5-star read. So my creme de la creme. Jiyoung, born 1982. And what an experience this is. Apparently, this book has been attributed as starting the 4B movement in Korea. She is diagnosed as having psychosis, and we're basically working backwards, trying to pinpoint the source of how the psychosis started. But really, she is just being suffocated by the patriarchy. It is incredible. I can't recommend this book enough. I can't wait to read some more from this author. It's definitely a book with something to say. My other 5-star read this month was Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. This was such a fantastic time. I laughed. It had me crying at some points. It's got one of the best found families that I've read in fiction, and Vera is one of my favourite characters. She's so funny, so witty, but also absolutely savage. This was just an absolute joy to read from start to finish. The audiobook narration can make or break an experience for me, and the audiobook narrator for this, honestly, is so good. I feel like she captures Vera's essence perfectly. This is about Vera, who owns a tea shop, and she comes down one day and discovers a dead body, and it all kind of unravels from there. If you're into cozy mysteries, or you just want to try one out that's actually really good, you need to pick up this. And finally, I would say is probably my favourite book of the month is The Unworthy by Augustina Bastarrica. This is her newest release. I read Tender as the Flesh and loved that one, but I think I love this one even more. It's only short. You could read it in a sitting. I do actually go into this in quite a lot of detail in my Horror for Beginners video. So if you do want my more in-depth thoughts, then please feel free to check that one out. This is about a woman who's living in some kind of sacred sisterhood in a convent in the woods. The world you understand to be some kind of dystopia. Their main aim in life is to be as pious as possible, to reach the status of the enlightened. They really are quite cruel to each other and cruel to themselves in the name of sacrifice. And then one day our protagonist meets a woman that's come from the outside world that joins this sacred sisterhood, and everything kind of unravels from there. What I love about Augustina Bastarrica's writing, and what I think actually makes it more disturbing, is the fact that it's told in such a matter-of-fact way. What the protagonist is experiencing is seen as kind of everyday to them, but reading it from our perspective, we can see how unhinged the story is, and I think it adds to the unsettling atmosphere. It was absolutely fantastic from start to finish. I read this immersively, so that means I listened to the audiobook whilst I read along with the physical book, and I would highly recommend doing that, as this is written in kind of a diary format, and there's parts of it that are kind of crossed out by our main character, and the way the narrator represents that is by whispering those parts, and it's really creepy. I loved it. 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I think this one's gonna have to be my favourite book of the month. Let me know yours. Also, I did read the first book in the Raven cycle, which is The Raven Boys, but I haven't rated it yet because I'm going to wait until I've read the rest of the series and give it like an overall rating. At a push, I'll probably give this a 3.5, 3.25. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I like getting to know the characters, and I enjoy like the vibe of it. There's psychics and it's witchy. The only thing that I hope it's not leaning into too much is Arthurian legend, which is what I kind of got the feel of. But it doesn't mean that I won't enjoy this, and I know that this is so many people's most favourite series of all time, so I'm going to give it a proper go. I did actually buy the entire series, which I never do anymore, but I did buy the entire series before I'd even read the first book, but it's fine because I really enjoyed this and I'm definitely going to carry on. But yeah, let me know if you've read this and what you thought of the first book. Do you think it's that type of series where as it goes along you start feeling more for the characters as you're getting to know them, and then when you go back and reread it's such a nostalgic, wonderful experience? That's what I'm thinking anyway. We'll see. But yeah, they are all the books that I read this month. Let me know if we read any of the same books and what your favourite book of, what month are we in? We're in June now. What your favourite book of May was as well. I'd love to know. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd love it if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I'd love to have you over here. But until the next one, I'll see you again in another one soon. Bye.